This video shows the process used to make a braided leather edge guard for a 12-inch flexible salmon slicing knife. I start drawing the pattern around the blade, then add the embellishments like an earth magnet catch, raised and lined decorations on the front and back to create a grip, and a two-tone round braid edge. I'm using AutoCAD LT and draw the pattern in 1:1 scale, then print the pattern in 1/8 of an inch acrylic for marking and cutting jigs. I planned out where all the holes needed to be during the drawing stage and made the holes to match the 3/16 inch kangaroo lace, or 3/16 inch holes spaced 3/8 of an inch apart at center. I also made the holes to fit the hole punch so the holes are guided for exact spacing, and since the braid will be on the curve, I added an extra hole to close the gap between the laces on the outside of the curve. I use a Glowforge laser to cut out MDF wet molds too. Raised and lined elements are cut out of 1/4 inch MDF and offset 1/8 of an inch to stretch the leather around. To cut out and mold the 3 to 4 ounce vegetable tanned leather, use room temperature water and soak a piece of leather slightly larger than the mold for at least 10 minutes. Then sandwich the leather between plastic wrap and squeeze the leather into the mold on the end of a bench with clamps. Leave the clamps on for about 20 to 30 minutes and allow the leather to dry. The easiest way to cut out accurate pieces quickly is to clamp the leather and acrylic cutout jig to the edge of a table and drag a hobby knife along the edge to create the part. Another way to accurately cut out a part is with a punch. Tool guides work well to center the punch around raised leather parts to create an equal border. Wait until the leather is bone dry before you cut out the parts because the leather will shrink as it dries out. To mark out the stitching seams, scribe a line 1/8 of an inch from the edge and use stitching chisels to punch through the leather. Bevel the edges and color the parts with eco-friendly solvent dyes. Allow to dry, then burnish, skive, and paint the edges. Next, glue and stitch the parts together, starting with the raised and lined parts. The raised parts are filled with pieces of saddle leather, which also adds strength to the raised shape. To install the earth magnet catch, glue and stitch a 1-inch circle around a 1/2 inch earth magnet. The earth magnet is an easy way to help stop the blade from falling out of the edge guard. After all the first layer details are stitched into place on both sides, it is glued and stitched onto the next layer using an acrylic glue-up jig to keep all the pieces lined up correctly. Then glue the flat gusset on the top side and punch the lacing and stitching holes through the top and gusset. Make sure there is enough room for your knife to fit and add an acrylic top coat as a moisture barrier for the interior of the edge guard. Then glue and stitch on the back. A stitching pony is a helpful tool to hold the leather in place. Make sure your stitching awl is very sharp and saddle stitch the pieces together. I am using 0.6 mm Ritza tiger thread and number 4 John James harness needles with a 5 mm spacing. So I stitch at a speed of about 1 inch a minute, so about 2 hours of stitching time for this entire edge guard, but not in one sitting because I wait several hours between each layer for the glue to dry. After the gusset is sewn into place, bevel the edges and sand them flush. Then the bottom layer of the lacing holes can be punched through. A drive punch works well, or a rotary punch like this one is also good to use, but after 80 holes your hand and forearm will have a bit of a workout. Then dye and burnish the edges and edge paint the edge that will not be laced over, then prepare your lace. There are several ways to edge braid. This is how to round edge braid with 2 different colored laces. Start with 2 different colored thongs, at least 3.5 times the length of the edge braid you want to lace and attach your needles. I am using 3/16 inch kangaroo lace, and the needles I like to use are the threaded brass style because the kangaroo lace is very strong and difficult to break. Any kind of lace can be used, but regular lace usually breaks off in the brass needle tips. So I prefer the standard double thong lacing needles when I make the lace from cowhide. Rub on a little conditioner so the leather is less likely to crack as tension is applied, and use a round hole awl to burnish the punch through holes from the back. Then starting at the back hole, find the center of the first lace so there is the same amount of lace on both sides, and use a small clip to tension the lace for the next hole. A 4-strand edge braid is done in 4 passes, so wrap the first thong tightly through every other hole from back to front, and then wrap the other side of the first thong from the opposite direction. You can pull the lace through multiple holes to save time, but you want the lace to lie down flat along the top edge equally as you apply tension, which creates an equally spaced crossing point for the next pass to fit into. The third pass uses the different colored lace and is wrapped around the top through the empty holes. When you get to the end, the last pass is weaved into place. The trick is to make sure the lace is tight as you weave the needle following the pattern over one and under one. When your weave has been completed and the braid is tight, finish off by passing the ends over top of the same thong going under at least 2 intersection points and cut off the ends. It should take about an hour to do the lacing, and to maintain this edge guard, keep away from water and apply a little leather conditioner so the leather does not dry out and crack.